Rejoice! We are back. Probably a little bit longer, I think, than it should have been. But this is indeed episode number 13. Or is it 14? Should we just start over with 1? I don't know, maybe we'll do that. But this is very interesting. If you notice, there's a fan running behind me. I'm doing this from the comfort of my room here at BYU, Hawaii. We're good at school. Ain't that the weirdest thing? I feel it's like the weirdest thing for me to be doing a podcast at school, but I figured I have some time on my hands and I'll make the most of it. And, get my schoolwork done and get my spiritual life done and also try to get my podcasts done as well. For those that are listening on the YouTubes, and for those that are watching, well, watching in the sense of watching the video, audio version of this, thank you for joining us. For joining me, actually. For those of you that are a little bit new, this is Alexander Tumalip speaking. I've been off for about 2 years now. I'm not doing the podcast because I had to go away for serving a mission. Some of you that are listening to this podcast are members of the church, and will know that we believe that all men have a mandate to serve the Lord and to preach the gospel to the entire world. So that's what I basically have done for 2 years. And so thank you for your patience with me. I know it was pretty difficult to go through this kind of stretch without having a podcast, so thank you so much for being patient and for overall bearing with me, because as you know, I have a tendency to be very, very outspoken and to be very loud. But as you notice, I have changed, and my voice has gotten lower, and I'm a very, very quiet man. Well, I try to be a quiet man anyway. So if I can describe what I'm in right now, I'm basically in my little cubicle here, looking off to my right-hand side. Here's my bed, and looking off to the front of me, my little cubicle right here. I have all my things organized, my school books and my note-taking things and whatnot, on my new phone. I have a new phone, if anyone is wondering. It's an iPhone 10. I don't know if it's an iPhone 10 or 10s, so it's somewhere in that realm, the neighborhood. And I'm also doing this on a very high-quality recording microphone. Well, high-quality recording microphone in the sense that it's a Beats Studio Cubed audio mic jack that I'm doing this on. And so if the audio sounds a little bit clearer than it normally does, again, it's not totally clear, but it's clearer than it normally was. Thank you to Beats Studio Cubed for that. I don't know if it's supposed to name drop that on the air. Who cares? And if you hear the mic, as I just did, if you hear the mic moving around during the podcast a little bit, it's because I'm trying to fiddle it around so that it catches my voice clearly. So if it starts moving around or the cord starts moving around, please forgive me, because I will be hitting it quite a bit so I can get the full effect of my voice. So there's a lot of things I missed, apparently, during the past 2 years or so. But they all seem to be relatively good things. The sports scene has not really changed all that much. We've seen the wannabes and the nobodies jump out of the way to make way for the new boys. Super Bowl 51 and 52 took place while I was out. And there's music going on behind me, so I don't know if you can hear that though. But I think what the most interesting thing is that this podcast really has taken on a whole life of its own. Just the other day I was talking to Chase Dahl, my good friend, and he asked me, what the heck is the podcast about? What the heck is it? Anyway, yeah, it was fun. Thanks a lot, Chase, for not knowing that. Hope he's not listening to that. But anyway, sports scene hasn't changed all that much. We will be talking about some sportsy things today. Obviously, the Rams-Saints call was obviously one of the worst ones we've seen in quite a while. That's the hot topic that's been kind of floating around the NFL, basically. I fail to see, however, how how much one call can get somebody so riled up. Of course, I can speak for myself. My father and I are 49ers fans, San Francisco 49ers fans, and my mother is a Denver Broncos fan. So we have had our share over the years of some fairly questionable officiating. Not to say that the officiating was much more better in the Patriots-Chiefs AFC Championship. There were some pretty bad phantom calls that were made. But the magnitude and the scale of what the Rams-Saints call took on was really astonishing. For those that don't know, over the weekend, or if you missed it, whenever you listen to this, there was a controversial call in the Rams-Saints NFC Championship that really has taken on a life of its own. So if I can describe it to you, on 3rd down and 10, Drew Brees from the shotgun takes the snap, drops back to throw, and throws a high pass down the sideline intended for Tommy Lee Lewis. And Nickel Roby-Coleman comes screaming out like a missile and absolutely cracks Lewis. He cracks Tommy Lee Lewis, and under the belief, the referee said later, the ball was tipped, although replays showed otherwise. There was no flag. And it subsequently set off a firestorm of controversy. The worst being that many Saints fans were extremely angered. I even took to the rule book to find the obscure Rule 17.1.1, which says that if an egregious foul is committed, if an egregious lack of competition or lack of fairness is seen, the commissioner has the authority, therefore, to overturn a ruling, A, or B, replay the offending foul, or replay the down from the spot of the offending foul, which would have been, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, would have been on the 12 or 13-yard line. I was at church, and of course I don't pay attention to that stuff during church. I try to focus my efforts on the Sabbath and the Lord's Sabbath and keeping it holy. But I saw the replays afterwards, and I have to tell you, in my years of watching football and watching sports, in fact, I have never seen a call so egregiously and blatantly disregarded by the officials. Anyway, but I felt terrible. I felt genuinely terrible for the Saints fans. A, because obviously they got robbed, and they certainly showed it afterwards. They were pretty angry. That eventually led to them losing the game. Because the Rams went down after they kicked the field goal. They tied it on the next possession, and on the second possession of overtime, after the Saints turned it over, then the Rams went and scored possibly the greatest game-winning field goal in the history of the NFC Championship game. By the way, if you're wondering, the biggest comeback in the NFC Championship remains San Francisco's 17-point comeback against the Atlanta Falcons in 2012. The Rams' comeback of 13 points was the second biggest in NFC Championship history. But unfortunately for the Saints fans, the nightmare is only beginning. Many memes were posted of Bill Vinovich posing with Todd Gurley afterwards. There was another one just today, I think, where a Saints fan who owned an automobile company went around and posting advertisements on his billboards that he had, or rented rather, to show how angry he was with the result of the game. Now, in all my years watching football, watching sports, I have never, ever seen people go to egregious means to make their opinions known. So let me take you back. If you remember, if anybody looked at my Facebook, or anybody follows me on Facebook, or friends me on Facebook, you'll know that I posted something equivalent to the Rams-Saints game. I posted a list of all the controversial calls that the NFL has been in, and some of them were with the Niners. Okay, most of them were with the Niners. I'm a little bit biased. But I was doing that to show that everyone in the NFL is hosed. Everyone gets their due. I mean, the Niners certainly had one. The Giants had theirs. Most certainly the Raiders had theirs with the Tuck rule. The Lions with the Jim Schwartz rule. The Cowboys with the Des Bryant rule. I could go on and on and on and on. The Immaculate Reception. Many Raiders fans still think that Franco Harris didn't catch the ball cleanly. That's just the game. That's just the game. It's amazing what one game can do now that I look at it from a perspective of a missionary who's been away for 2 years, emotionally detached from that kind of thing. To see the little degeneration of a society based on one human mistake. Would it have been any better or any more solace to Saints fans if the flag was thrown? In fact, I think it may have been an improvement. The Rams fans understood. Nikel Roby-Coleman certainly understood that. And nobody knows how to get over it. Nobody. I cannot believe the Saints fans right now. Many Saints fans are angry. I get it. Because I know. I've been there. I can attest to that. Did I think the 49ers get hosed on the goal line stand and multiple points during Super Bowl 47? Absolutely. Do I think that the Cowboys got hosed because of the Des Bryant rule? Absolutely. Jim Schwartz rule with the Lions? Yep. I watched that game and it was the biggest travesty I'd seen in my life. But the funny thing is, I got over it. I moved past it. Do I still think about it? Yes, I do still think about it. I do indeed still think about the Rams-Saints game. Am I still somewhat upset at the officials? Yes. But I don't care. Because A, it's not my team, and B, I've been there. Was I upset at Super Bowl 47 when the Niners didn't get the pass interference call? Or didn't get an offsides call on Arthur Jones in the 2-point conversion? Sure. I was pissed. But after a few days, I forgot about it. After a few days, I moved on. I learned how to deal with it. And it kind of made me feel better because everybody else went through the same thing, as I realized and found out later. 2 years of emotional detachment also taught me that. Do I still feel some harboring resentment for Jerome Boger's crew in Super Bowl 47? Yeah. What about the officiating crew for the La Tech Hawaii Bowl? Or the fiasco in the Hawaii Bowl where they failed to call Jalen Ferguson for personal foul? Yeah, I do. But that's okay. Because somewhere down the road they'll get their due. And it's unfortunate that they should do that. Because apparently, it looks like today, the law of Moses is in full effect. What is the law of Moses, you ask? Eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. Revenge. In order to get their revenge, the referees who made a bad call from the previous shtick, go out and make a bad call for this thing. For example, Super Bowl 47. And after Super Bowl 47, the Ravens got their just due with the controversial call of their own. I don't know. I got to check that because I'm pretty sure the Ravens got a controversial call against them. But the Seahawks. No, I don't. Okay. To be honest, I don't remember any team getting their just due. I can think of one though. Niners Saints had the same scenario. Niners Saints 2013. The bogus call on Ahmad Brooks. What do they do in return? Call a bogus pass interference call on Jimmy Graham. If you watch the game, if you're a Niners or Saints fan or an NFL fan, go back and watch that highlight where Jimmy Graham gets called for the phantom offensive pass interference because it was terrible. It was the worst call. I had ever seen. That's just it. Everybody gets their just dues. Everyone will have their day for a bad call. And the way the Saints fans are reacting to this right now is just not the right thing to do. Of course, I was thinking about this doing the same thing at the time the Niners lost the Super Bowl. But I forgot about it in the aftermath. Because I didn't want to remember it anymore. I moved past it. I've moved on. I've forgotten about it. Because you know why? There are always opportunities in the future. There's always a next season. For a reason. We have reason to hope. To faith. Do you really think a petition with 6,000 signatures on it will get Roger Goodell to do something about it? Here's another thing that's working against Saints fans. Number 2 of the rule says, if the game has gone final, then there's nothing you can do about it. That's what the rule says, according to ESPN.com, in an article published today. Even if the commissioner had authority to say, okay, let's put the ball back 3rd and 10 on the 12-yard line with 1:49 or however long was left, the game's already done. The Rams won, fair and square. It was a bad call. The Saints got robbed. Who cares? Get over it. I've been there too. I was thinking about in the immediate aftermath of Super Bowl 47 for the NFL to come down and say Ray Lewis used deer antler spray, and that they're gonna vacate the Super Bowl from the Ravens. I wanted that to happen, but then I forgot about it. What I'm saying today, folks, is if you're a Saints fan, get a life. Let it go. Move on. Refs are human. They make mistakes. We all do. I can't think of any ref in the NFL or any other sport or any one of us on earth that's perfect. That's the beauty of it all. Because God made us that way. God made us imperfect so we can learn how to be perfect. We'll never be perfect in this life. And if you think you're justified, and if you're a Saints fan, I'm talking directly to you, or any NFL fan that's seeking vengeance for something that happened 7 years ago, or even 1,000,000 years ago, not even before you were born. If you're seeking vengeance for something that happened a long time ago, or you're seeking vengeance for this if you're a Saints fan, I will tell you this. Get over it. Grow up. Get a life. And move on. Leave it behind and look forward to next season. You had an awesome year. And respect the two teams for getting it done. Because I will call attention to that in just a second. The way you Saints fans are acting right now, if you're a Saints fan and you're listening to this, you're acting childish. You're acting immature. This doesn't help anything, and it's not going to help you. So grow up and get over it. Because in the immortalized words we say today, the ball don't lie. This is Tumalip the Podcast, episode number 14, listening to you, or you're listening to it here on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. And so now I call attention to that one part of the show where everybody's going to be talking about. I saw on Instagram the other day, the New England, what did they call it? The Cheers and the should have Los Angeles Rams. There are all these accusations floating around the NFL, floating around the fans right now, that the NFL rigged this game so that the Pats and the Rams could be in the Super Bowl. I've seen this picture before. I mean, come on. For sure, 2018. Cavaliers and Warriors. As soon as the Celtics-Cavs final went to a Game 7, as soon as the Rockets-Warriors went to Game 7, I kind of had an inkling in my mind that it was going to be Cavs-Warriors again. LeBron James is simply too good in those situations. Where you put him in pressure situations, he'll just outwork you. He'll outplay you. That's just how he is. certainly, as a Celtics fan, I did not think that was rigged. That was just talent outplaying the youngsters. Or the grizzled veteran outplaying the youngsters. The Golden State Warriors have always been the class of the NBA, although I hate them with a vengeance. I won't say why, for the sake of media. Because I'm sure most other people, some other people do. Then you think about this Super Bowl, the Patriots and the Rams. Can we just sit back and give some props to what these two teams have done? First, let me look at Los Angeles. This is a team a few years ago that was the laughingstock of the entire National Football League. They were always on the bottom of the NFC West. They were never competing for division championships, and let alone they were never competing for a playoff spot, and let alone they were never competing for a Super Bowl. Let alone they weren't even competing, as I said earlier, for even to get, second place in the division for a division championship. I mean, surely you thought with Sam. I'm sure you thought with Sam Bradford, okay, they're going to do something here, especially his 2010 rookie season, which I think was one of the most promising rookie seasons I saw for a long time, until, of course, injuries derailed his career, and now he's just basically on the sidelines waiting for someone to give him a phone call. Poor guy. That was the last time you thought the then St. Louis Rams were getting close. Then enter Jeff Fisher, and it looked pretty decent, except they were comfortable going 8-8, as Jeff Fisher always was, according to many media outlets. The years go by, and the draft picks pile up, and then finally the Rams leave St. Louis, and they move to Los Angeles. And then enter Sean McVay. Could you even have imagined the talent this team would have in just a few years? Could you imagine a 33-year-old, a youngster, a 33-year-old head coach going to the Super Bowl in only his second season? I didn't even fathom that it could happen. I give tremendous amount of credit to the Rams as a Niners fan. Because you know why? They're accomplishing something you may never see ever again. I will say it straight up. If the Rams win Super Bowl 53, they will go down as one of the greatest teams in the history of the National Football League. Period. I believe that. I think there's no other team that comes close to them right now in the NFL. The Rams are the best team in the NFL. I think it's a great accomplishment for the city of Los Angeles. And I think they deserve to see a Super Bowl. I know that this is a city that has been waiting a long time for a Super Bowl. Heck, this team never even made the Super Bowl as the Los Angeles Rams. Los Angeles Rams. They made it as the St. Louis Rams, but they didn't make it as the LA Rams. Think how proud the legends of this team must be. Eric Dickerson, the Fearsome Foursome, the members of The Greatest Show on Turf, Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Dick Vermeil. All those guys. Deacon Jones of the Fearsome Foursome, as I mentioned earlier, the Fearsome Foursome. This team is being called the greatest show on surf for a reason. They are the greatest show on surf. They're the hottest ticket in LA. They're outselling the Kings, the Clippers, the Dodgers, the Lakers. Heck, the Lakers are supposed to be the top draw in town. The USC Trojans are supposed to be the top draw in town. And they're outselling them by a wide margin. Think about that. This is a great city. This is a great city to have an NFL team in. I've known it for a long time. Ever since the Rams started the relocation rumors, I knew that they were going back to Los Angeles because I knew that that's where they would have the most success. St. Louis would have never given them that. Now, some of you might argue that St. Louis would have never given them that, but the truth is, because of the poor quality of their stadium, the Ed Jones Dome, and because of the poor quality of players they had on their roster, despite signing so many promising free agents, they were never going to be close to anybody in the NFC West as the Seahawks and the 49ers were, or the Cardinals and 49ers and Seahawks were, in the heyday of the NFC West in the early 2010s. That was just how it was. And now this team has flipped the entire NFC West on its head. Now it's Arizona and San Francisco battling for the bottom of the NFC West and for the higher draft picks. Cardinals have the number 1 draft pick. The 49ers have number 2. The Seahawks are just fighting to get into the playoffs. They couldn't even make the playoffs with a 9-7 record, let alone they barely made it this year. That's how far the NFL has come. That's how far Los Angeles has come since returning to LA 3 years ago. They've gone from laughingstock to, as I've already called it, legendary team. Legendary team. Greatest team in the history of LA Rams. Probably, maybe could be better, maybe equal to the fearsome foursome of the greatest show on turf. But I still say they're the legendary team in Los Angeles for years to come. And hey, by my count, they're certainly not Los Angeles anymore. But they're always still Lambs to me. That's my Rams side of that's my pro Rams argument in the story. Now let me present my pro Patriots argument, and I know there are going to be a lot of opponents of my pro Patriots argument. But the gist is this: Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, GOATs. End discussion. I have said over and over during these playoffs, Tom Brady is by and far the greatest quarterback of all time. The greatest player of all time. The greatest of all time, period, in the NFL. There is nobody that will ever come close to him or to what he's done. There is no one in the league that can challenge him. Nobody. He's going to compete for his 6th Super Bowl ring. He has been to 6 Super Bowls he has been to, they have won 5 Super Bowls in 10 years together, Brady and Belichick. They have been to 10 Super Bowls in 11 years. They have only not made the Super Bowl once. Or was it twice? I don't know. Ever since Brady and Belichick came to town, they've only missed the Super Bowl twice. Twice in 13 years. They've been to 11 Super Bowls in 13 years. Can you imagine who else can do that? Probably nobody. Bill Walsh took the 49ers to 3 Super Bowls, but he had to do it in 9 years. George Seifert took the 49ers to 2 Super Bowls, but he had to wait 5 years in between. 5 years in between. Vince Lombardi guided his team to two straight Super Bowl championships, and they won countless NFL championships before that, before the NFL and AFL merged. I don't think anybody in this league's history can compare to what Brady and Belichick have done, except maybe Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr have an argument. Of course, you remember Vince Lombardi, Bart Starr. They played for the Green Bay Packers. That's the point. That's my argument. Nobody can ever come close to what Tom Brady's done. 5 Super Bowls. 5 of them. And if he wins this, he'll have a 6th Super Bowl. 6 Super Bowl titles as a player at 41 years old, and the man can still throw the football. Tom Brady is the best. The best, hands down. Probably nobody will ever come close to what the Patriots have done for the NFL. I mean, sure, you could list out Spygate, you can accuse them of Deflategate and all that, but can you at least look beyond those 2 incidents and just see them for who they really are? That they are the true masterclass of this league. That they are the true champions that nobody will ever touch. By and far, the New England Patriots are the greatest team of this decade. Of this, probably this first 20 years of this century. That's a fact. Nobody else can challenge that. I'm so grateful I get to live in a time where I can debate about these things for Super Bowls and things like that. I'm also grateful to have such great friends that are with me all the time. Um, Later on down the road, we'll have some of those friends on the show. Chase Dahl will definitely be one of them. Give a shout out to him if he's listening to this. We are going to have one of my good friends, Jacob Dewey, or as Chase affectionately calls him, Jake Dewey. He's a rapper with a Pro Veracity. That'll probably be coming up in the July episode. I'm also giving a sneak peek right now. This podcast may undergo a slight modification. Seth Thompson, one of the good friends from my mission, is coming home in just another couple of months. But he will not be joining me here at BYU Hawaii for the spring term. He'll be joining me for the fall term in 2019. So he'll be joining me in the beginning of September. That's after college football season kicks off. So if I can swing it with him, I am planning to bring this podcast together as Tumalip and Thompson. Or that's Tumalip and Thompson. You can't say the P because he doesn't have a P in his name. It's spelled Thomsen. In case anyone's wondering. Yes, so it's Thompson. Thompson. It's not Thompson. Or rather, I'll enunciate it. It's Thompson, not Thompson. You got to take the P out because there's no P in his name. It is exactly how I spelled it. But Seth is a great guy. Seth is an awesome guy. He's very funny. He's very caring. He's very humble. And he's probably one of the more handsome people that I met, along with Chase Dahl. So that's just a little sneak preview of what you'll see here on the podcast in coming months. So watch out for that. But anyway, you all will probably want to hear my Super Bowl pick. Because the next podcast, in fact, will be a post-Super Bowl podcast, and we will look forward to March Madness, and we will also look forward to the home stretch of the NBA season. I'm going to try to have a guest on, and I'll announce it on my Facebook page, who the guest will be on the podcast. It will likely be either a good friend of mine or a return missionary. So just have a look out for that, and we will try as best as we can to see if we can hook up two voices to the podcast. Because I am very limited as to what I can do, and so if needs be, I will have to have a phone call, and I will try to hook it up through there. That's pretty much the podcast. I just ran about certain stuff, and I just talk about certain stuff for a few minutes or more. But it's fun. It's a very fun time, and hopefully, you get a different take on this. Yeah, you get a different perspective of what people are really saying out there. That's what we really should be doing. People skew things just so out of proportion these days. I don't understand it. I mean, we have media going around seeking this and that, seeking the praise of this and seeking the praise of that. That's when we should step back and just look at this through different lenses and say, okay, this guy did this. This woman did, this girl did that. What kind of person is she really during, what kind of person is this person really through all of this? Are we no more or less perfect than anybody else in this world? I believe we're all striving to be perfect. We all will be perfect. It's the promise of God. It's the premise of the plan of happiness. But nobody will force us to be that way. And nobody will be perfect in this life. Everybody makes mistakes. That is the ultimate premise of really anything that happens in this life. That's the beauty of the plan of happiness. God created us so that we could become perfect as He is. And people skew that so out of proportion as to thinking, okay, if you wear this, you're perfect. If you say something like that, then you're perfect. No. I am not a perfect man by any means. I am certainly striving to be a perfect man, although I don't seem like it right now. I have a very biased opinion, as many people do, on some of the things that I believe. And the things that I state on this podcast are what I think and what I believe. And facts are obviously important. I try to look at the facts. I try to read the facts. I read the news and I read ESPN every day trying to pick up what analysts are picking up on. And the facts are true. And I try to base that. And with that, I try to base that. And with that, I try to base the truth that I tell on the facts. That's the only way you're going to be able to see through the lies and everything else, is the truth. That's not for me to determine. That's not for me to determine at all. Truth is what we make of things. The truth is what we seek. Truth needs to be something we all seek. We are so easily offended and we are so easily angered because of what people say. Oh, he says this and he's wrong. Oh, he says this and he's wrong. I have a problem with that too. But God only knows what the truth is. God does know because he knows everything. And he loves us. That's what we believe in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. God is our loving Heavenly Father. He loves us. That we believe, and that we also believe we are his children. God is our Father in heaven, and we are his children. That's all we know. How we view that is our own personal choice. Podcasts, for me, are a way of expressing my views. That way I can tell people what I think on the subjects that I talk about, and that way I can tell them exactly what I think we should do. That's what we're here to do on Earth. We're here to create solutions to the problem. God knows the solution to the problem, and God will guide us to the solution. We've got to work for it. That's the only way we'll be able to solve problems. Podcasts offend you. Okay. God doesn't offend you. He never will. Well, God does offend you. Or does he? That's all in your mind. If God offends you for telling the truth, then why are you looking so hard for a lie? God will never lead you astray because of that. So if anything in this podcast offends you, or anything that I say during this podcast, or any other podcast that I do offends you, then that's something you need to solve on your own. Because God will give you the way to seek the truth. You've got to ask him. And you've got to search on your own for the facts. And God will forgive me for any mistakes that I made during this podcast or any other podcast I do. That's just what God does. Because he loves us. He does. And I can testify that that's true. With that, and based on the opinions that I had on the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl, here's my pick. To conclude the podcast, of course. In good fairness, I cannot pick a winner in this, because I know that one person will be angry, and the other person will be angry if I pick the other one. That's the fallacy of limited choice. If you have a question posed to you, you get in trouble either way. You don't have much of a choice. So I will say, in good faith, the Rams and the Patriots game will be a shootout. It will. It won't be like the Super Bowl 36 where it was a dud and was a defensive struggle. because defenses are much improved, and that offense really will come at a premium in this. But there will be over 30 points scored, I think, for each team. So I will say right now that the Patriots will defeat the Rams 41-34. Because the youthful inexperience of the Rams will be overtaken by the greatness of Tom Brady. That's basically what I'm basing it on. But Patriots 41, Rams 34. If you have any thoughts or comments, just leave them in the comment post below, and I will gladly appreciate them. And remember that God always knows the truth. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. Guys, it's been good fun here on the podcast, episode number 14, The Return. If you want to hit me up on social media, follow my Instagram at the RM Tumalip. That's Tumalip, and on Facebook, Alexander Tumalip. And for now, I will sign off, and I will see you guys next month. Remember, next month we're gonna have a post-Super Bowl recap, and we're gonna look forward to March Madness, and we'll look forward to the home stretch of the NBA season. Again, I hope to have a guest on during that time. So, until next time, I'm signing off. Good night. Well, my time, because I'm recording this at night. Have a good night. Stay calm. And also remember, God loves you all.